After 5 straight tournaments in 2024 in Sumo's top division and reaching as high as maegashira 8, Roga was injured and winless in the January basho. That dropped him all the way down to the second division, juryo. But this March he put up an 11-4 record, his best ever as a sekitori. Let's take a look at some of his best wins from this basho, starting with day 1. Now let's go back through that slowly. At the tachi, Roga looks for a left grip on the mawashi, but his opponent frames against his arm to block it. After getting briefly pushed off, Roga re-engages, but his opponent squats down and gets his head underneath Roga's. He pairs this head post with an underhook that he can use to start forcing Roga back. Roga quickly starts pushing on the shoulder while sliding to his left. This causes his opponent to stumble into the empty space where Roga once was, and before the opponent recovers his balance, Roga presses down on the head while pivoting on the tawada to topple his opponent over. Now let's jump ahead to day 5. Roga folds his right arm across his body to slam his shoulder into his opponent at the tachi. Then he tries to swim his right arm inside to look for an inside right grip. But again, his opponent gets his head posted under the chin while framing on the right arm, which allows him to keep his hips back and his belt far away from Roga's grip. But pay attention to what Roga does on the other side to compensate for not being able to get his inside right grip. He pushes on the shoulder to make sure his opponent's underhook remains shallow. This also gives him space to reach his right arm across and wrap it up with a 2-on-1. He uses that firm control of the arm to yank his opponent over. The lock is strong enough that he can force his opponent onto one foot, which also gives him an easy window to circle off the tawada safely. Now, as he circles away, watch how he makes a subtle change with his grip. He changes his arm lock to an arm drag, which will allow him to yank the arm across his body and further off-balance his opponent. Combined with his grip on the triceps, he pushes with his other arm. The arm drag is successful, and you can see here that his opponent's right arm is all the way on Roga's right side now, and that's enough to cause the opponent to completely lose his footing and fall down. The next day was also worth revisiting. Roga again rams his shoulder into his opponent at the tachi, but his opponent thrusts him off. He doesn't want to let Roga get close, so he tries to keep him at bay by thrusting on the shoulder. After the two clash again, now it's a throat thrust that threatens to push Roga back. But Roga deflects it with his left arm, which allows him to stay in range to ram his right arm in again and start looking for a mawashi grip. He finds his grip, but his opponent sees that Roga is up against a tawada, so he tries to press forward anyways to force him out. That turns out to be a mistake though, as Roga uses that forward momentum against his opponent, twisting him forward by the belt while pushing on his side with his left arm. Now let's skip ahead to day 10. There's Roga using his right shoulder as a battering ram again at the tachi. And again, he tries to find his inside right grip, but his opponent comes inside of his arm to get his own deep inside left. Roga then circles out to give himself enough space to pummel his right back inside. Notice that he has also snatched a strong outside left grip. Still, his opponent feels comfortable to press forward with his own Miki-Yotsu grip, right inside, left outside. But to stop the forward pressure, Roga kicks up his opponent's left leg, getting that foot off the ground and removing his ability to push off of it to force Roga backwards. Roga then switches his feet to bring his right leg inside. He's hoping to use his right leg in combination with his right grip to work a Sukui Nage underarm throw, but his opponent is careful to take wide steps to prevent getting toppled over in that direction. Meanwhile, Roga is fighting the battle on multiple fronts and has managed to pinch down his opponent's right arm and lift it up to break the grip. To try to counter Roga's side-on stance, his opponent looks for a sotogake outside trip, but Roga immediately pulls his right leg out to prevent it. That sequence is repeated, but Roga's backstepping to avoid getting tripped has conceded space and put him against a Tawada. He braces his foot against a Tawada and continues to fight on his opponent's right side. This is really just a distraction though, as Roga is actually setting up an attack on the other side. He sneaks his right leg back inside, and his tight defense against a Tawada has his opponent desperately leaning all of his weight into Roga to try to force him back just a few more inches. But Roga uses that against him and quickly launches his right-handed attack. He pulls up with his inside right grip and pinches down with his left overhook. And to complete the throw, watch how Roga takes a big step with his right foot to follow through with his opponent, bumping him over with his thigh all the way through the motion of the throw. Now on to the penultimate match of this basho. This time, the opponent is able to get his left arm inside of Roga's right at the tachi-ai. But that's no problem for the Tuven Rikishi, as he pulls his opponent completely across with his outside left grip. Then, when his opponent re-engages, Roga is ready to sneak his right inside. That quick tug on the left side also let Roga get his head on the same side as his outside left grip. That head position will become important in just a second. In the meantime, watch how Roga eschews a right grip on the mawashi for a deep underhook. The underhook allows him to better keep his opponent's posture lifted up, and he can also use it to make it difficult for his opponent to get their own outside left grip. Now with his opponent standing up tall and leaning into him, Roga quickly yanks him over with the outside left grip. Remember how he got his head on that same side? Well, now he can use his head for leverage in his throw, forcing his opponent down as his left grip pulls him forward. Now for the final match of the basho. As usual, Roga looks for an inside right at the tachi-ai, but another head post is making that difficult. His opponent takes it a step further and forces Roga's right arm across his body. He's also using an underhook on the other side to keep Roga off of his outside left grip as well. This is a good position to push forward from when Roga doesn't have any grips, but Roga just forces his right inside anyways and settles for grabbing the triceps on the left side. The opponent recognizes the danger of the inside right and stops pressing forward, and goes back to pinching down with his arm to break the grip. He manages to get Roga off of his mawashi, but remember that Roga doesn't need a mawashi grip on the right and will happily settle for a solid underhook on that side. So Roga slowly crawls his right hand up the back to get a strong underhook. Meanwhile, he has also gotten his preferred head position on the left side and forced his opponent back to the Tawada. Now on the defensive, the opponent braces his foot against the Tawada and brings his right leg inside of Roga's stance to threaten to trip out the legs if Roga thoughtlessly presses into him. Roga remains patient though. He has his favorite Migiyotsu position and doesn't need to rush. He focuses on taking small steps to cut off his opponent's escape, which also keeps him off to the left. That results in a very deep outside left grip. The opponent has one last hope from this dangerous position, an uchigake inside trip, but Roga does something very clever to counter it. He lifts his leg up to pinch his opponent's foot between his thigh and his calf. That forces the opponent to get stuck on one leg, and all Roga needs to do is lean into him to topple him over. Now Roga just makes sure to hop his right foot forward slightly to keep his own balance, and he pulls his opponent forward with his grip on the back of the mawashi. The only thing Roga has to worry about here is his opponent somehow kicking his leg over while he falls. So Roga steps his leg over as he goes down to prevent that. With this performance, Roga proved without a doubt that he belongs in Makuuchi. He also showed that he's improved a lot since the last time he was in juryo, since all 7 of his previous records in the second division were either 8-7s or 9-6s. It still remains to be seen whether Roga can live up to the potential he demonstrated in his amateur sumo days, but I still think his best days are ahead of him.